In the vast, deep blue of the Pacific Ocean, a world was waiting to be born. Far from any continent, a great and powerful force was stirring in the darkness of the seabed. This was not a gentle beginning, but a violent and spectacular one. Deep beneath the waves, the very crust of our planet shifted and groaned, pushed upwards by immense heat and pressure from the Earth's molten heart. Volcanoes, hidden in the abyss, began to erupt with unimaginable fury. Fiery plumes of molten rock, a brilliant, terrifying orange, burst through the ocean floor, meeting the cold, dark water in a hiss of steam and fury. This was the genesis of a new land, a process of creation that is as old as the world itself. Over countless millennia, this volcanic dance continued. Eruption after eruption piled lava upon lava, building mountains from the ocean's depths. Slowly, layer by fiery layer, the peaks grew, climbing steadily towards the sunlight they had never seen. One day, a scarred and blackened summit broke the surface of the water, steaming and sizzling under the equatorial sun. An island was born. For an immense stretch of time, the newly formed islands remained barren, silent witnesses to the sun and stars. But life, in its infinite persistence, is a relentless explorer. The story of how this empty volcanic world became a bustling haven of nature is a true epic of survival against all odds. The journey for the first colonists was perilous, a voyage across hundreds of miles of open, unforgiving ocean. The first arrivals were not mighty beasts, but the smallest and hardiest of travelers. Tiny seeds, spores of ferns and lichens were lifted high into the atmosphere by powerful winds, carried on the invisible currents of the air for weeks, until by sheer chance, some fell upon these lonely shores. Other pioneers arrived by sea, not as skilled navigators, but as accidental castaways. Clinging to these floating mats of earth and branches were insects, seeds, and perhaps even a small, bewildered reptile. But every now and then one of these accidental arks would wash ashore on a Galapagos beach, delivering its precious living cargo to a new world. The first to establish a foothold were the hardiest of plants. Lichens, masters of survival, could cling to the bare rock itself, slowly breaking it down with acids and creating the very first traces of soil. The islands were no longer just rock and ash, they were beginning to breathe. Once life had secured its place on these isolated shores, a new and even more extraordinary chapter began. The Galapagos Islands became a living laboratory, a place where evolution was on full display. The species that had arrived were transformed by their new home, shaped by its unique challenges and opportunities. Each island acted as a separate world, with its own distinct climate, terrain and food sources. An animal that thrived on one island might struggle on another, forcing life to become incredibly inventive. This isolation was the key ingredient for nature's greatest experiment. Consider the finches, which would later become so famous. On the islands with tough, hard-shelled seeds, birds with stronger, thicker beaks were more successful. On other islands where insects burrowed in tree bark, finches with slender, pointed beaks had the advantage. Over countless generations, these small differences added up until the birds had become entirely new species. This incredible process wasn't limited to the birds. Plants that were small shrubs on the mainland grew to the size of trees in the Galapagos, reaching for sunlight in ways their ancestors never could. The result was a collection of creatures found nowhere else on Earth, each a masterpiece of survival. What the Galapagos demonstrates so beautifully is that life is not static. To walk these islands is to walk through a living museum, witnessing millions of years of adaptation. The result of this long isolation and adaptation is a cast of wildlife so unique, so extraordinary, that it feels as though one has stepped into another world. Perhaps the most iconic of all are the Galapagos giant tortoises. These magnificent, slow-moving giants are like living relics from a prehistoric age. They can live for over a century, carrying their heavy, domed shells across the highlands, their wrinkled faces showing a wisdom that seems as ancient as the islands themselves. Each island's tortoise population has a uniquely shaped shell, a direct result of its environment, a testament to the power of adaptation. Then there are the creatures of the shoreline, where the volcanic rock meets the sea. Here, one can witness a truly remarkable sight, the marine iguana. It is the only lizard on the entire planet that has learned to make a living from the sea. Clustered together in large groups on the black lava rocks, they seem at first to be motionless statues, absorbing the heat of the sun, but then, one by one, they slip into the cold ocean waves, swimming with a graceful serpentine motion to graze on algae growing on the submerged rocks. After their chilly dive, they must return to land to warm themselves, often sneezing out excess salt from a special gland in their noses. And we must not forget the birds, which bring vibrant life and often a touch of comedy to the islands. None are more charming than the blue-footed booby. Their name is no exaggeration. Their feet are a startling, brilliant shade of turquoise blue. These birds are not shy, and they use their spectacular feet in a wonderful courtship dance, lifting them high and showing them off to a potential mate. The bluer the feet, the more attractive the male, a sign of his health and skill as a fisherman. From the flightless cormorant with its stunted, useless wings but powerful swimming ability to the Galapagos penguins, the only penguin species to live north of the equator, the islands are filled with such evolutionary marvels. In 1835, a small British survey ship, the HMS Beagle, sailed into the waters of the Galapagos. Aboard was a young and brilliant naturalist named Charles Darwin. He was just 26 years old, filled with an insatiable curiosity about the natural world. He had no idea that his 5-week visit to this remote archipelago would change his life and the course of human knowledge forever. At first, he saw the islands much as others had, a desolate and harsh volcanic landscape. But as he began to explore, collecting samples of plants, birds, and insects, he started to notice something peculiar, something that sparked a revolutionary idea in his mind. Darwin observed that the mockingbirds on different islands were subtly different from one another. He also collected several species of small, unremarkable finches. It was only later, with the help of an expert ornithologist back in England, that he realized the profound significance of his collection. These were not just varieties of the same bird, they were distinct species, each uniquely adapted to its island home. He wondered how this could be. Why would a creator make so many similar but separate species for such a small, isolated group of islands? He pondered the tortoises as well, learning that the vice-governor of the islands could tell which island a tortoise came from simply by looking at the shape of its shell. Everything he saw pointed to a single powerful conclusion. Species were not unchangeable. They could and did change over time. They adapted to their surroundings, and over immense periods, this process of adaptation could lead to the creation of entirely new species. This was the very foundation of his theory of evolution by natural selection. The very isolation that made the Galapagos a cradle of new life now makes its inhabitants incredibly vulnerable. Recognizing the immense value of this unique ecosystem, the people of Ecuador and the international scientific community have mounted an extraordinary effort to protect it. In 1959, on the centenary of Darwin's great book, 97% of the land area of the Galapagos was declared a national park. Today, the work of conservation is a constant and complex challenge. Scientists and park rangers work tirelessly to control and eradicate invasive species, a difficult and often painstaking task that is essential for the survival of the native animals and plants. They also run successful breeding programs for giant tortoises, raising them in captivity to protect them from predators before reintroducing them to their ancestral islands. The Galapagos Islands are more than just a beautiful destination for wildlife enthusiasts. They are a living, breathing monument to the power and ingenuity of life itself. From their violent, fiery birth to their colonization by history's most tenacious castaways, these islands tell the grand story of our planet in miniature. They are a window into the deep past, allowing us to see the very processes that have shaped all life on Earth, including our own. The lessons that Charles Darwin learned here are as relevant today as they were in the 19th century. The islands teach us about adaptation, resilience, and the intricate, interconnected web of life. They show us how precious and fragile these connections are and how easily they can be broken. In a world facing unprecedented environmental challenges, the Galapagos stand as a powerful symbol. The future of these islands rests firmly in our hands. The work being done to preserve this archipelago is a beacon of hope. The Galapagos Islands are a priceless inheritance, a gift from the Earth to all of humanity. They are a source of wonder, a fount of scientific knowledge, and a crucial reminder of our responsibility to be wise stewards of the natural world. It is a treasure not just of our time, but for all time, and it is our sacred duty to ensure that its remarkable story never ends.